Yeah, what it is. So before we start, I just want to start off by first saying that there's absolutely no gore, violence, substances, hate speech, or anything else of the nature during the commission of this video. And if you don't know, this is your man's reporting to you live from the back of the classroom, Petty Murphy, aka MAGA Boy, doing what I do best, and that is the world's most illustrious propaganda pimping. If anything you see during the course of this video resonates, by all means, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you, and have a wonderful day. Yeah, what's cracking? So you already know what it is. It's your man's Petty Murphy, aka Mac Man, doing what I do best. That's the world's most illustrious propaganda pimping, right? So I was speaking to one of my, how do I put it? One of my brothers in arms, right? And he brought up some topics that made a lot of sense. So I thought, you know what? Let's ask the people. So I got a question, right? What actually happens after this election, right? Because as you know, most of the organizers, the same organizers that have allowed the grievances at NYU alone to amass to over 4,000, a backlog of over 4,000, because they weren't doing their job because they were too busy taking our union dues, following Kamala Harris up and down the East Coast so that they could beg for political futures or favors, for political favors somewhere down the line. And we see how that turned out. So my question is this, right? After the election, what happens? Because if these people aren't elected to VPs, they didn't run again for organizers. So do they go back to being an organizer? Or do they get another job in the union? Because if they're elected officials and we have to elect them, and then they go up for another office and then they lose, that means they have to vacate their current position. They didn't win the position that they were running for, which means they should be unemployed. And they should no longer be getting a salary off of our union dues, including any fringe benefits. So these are some of the things that we need to be asking 1199, because the union dues is your money. It's my money. It's our money. And they need to be doing with it what we say do with it. And if they're not servicing us, if they're not doing their jobs, if they're not hearing grievances, if they're not holding the institution to the contracts, then what are they there for? So this is something that we really got to think about, right? Let's see. What else is on my mind? After the election. My other question is this, right? How do they determine what's a good delegate and who should be awarded or propped up as an organizer? Because as members, we have no way of telling how a delegate actually works or how they are until we get behind the walls with them. But there should be somewhere on the union website where there's a list of all the delegates that say how many cases they've had, how many they've won, what they're for, and gives a complete breakdown of their delegate record as well as their record as an organizer. This way, when we're voting for VPs, we know exactly why we're voting and for whom we're voting for. But right now, we know absolutely nothing. So what we have is that we have an act, literally, what you're seeing is an example of the blind leading the blind. And all of us are fucking blind and don't nobody know where they're going. Pardon my French. Now, of course, alleged, right? So take everything I say with a grain of salt, because we know how one TikTok likes to get, and we know that the Triune and 1199's own Campo Santos and crew always report my videos. But yeah, just a couple things we should all think about. I'll be back a little bit later with a little more to chew on. But y'all remember, man, realize, transparency forces accountability. Y'all be safe out there. Keep your eyes to the stars and keep your head on the floor.